Hey, welcome. It's Griff Nielsen with Lifelong Fitness, and I just want to thank you for being here and for investing your time, your money, your emotion, your blood, sweat, and tears with us. I welcome you to this journey in your life, and I congratulate you for it because really what you've done is you have made a commitment to your long-term health. You've made a commitment to making a lifestyle change. Now, everybody that calls into Lifelong Fitness, I know I always am very forthright in telling them that we are different in the fact that we are committed to helping our clients obtain and achieve a long-term lifestyle change. Now, the reason that this business is set up after that model is because I firmly believe it's the only long-term solution. The latest research shows that 95% of all diets fail long-term. Now, why is that? Well, if we think about it, diets are a temporary solution to what ultimately is a permanent problem. When I say problem, what I mean by that is we live in a society where the norm is quick and convenient. One of my favorite sayings of all time is this: we worship at the altar of convenience, and we offer our health as the sacrificial lamb. Now, if you think about that, that's exactly where we're at as a society. We hop from meeting to meeting in the corporate world. We go from soccer game to soccer game, from one event to another event, volunteer here, volunteer there, which is all great. But in the meantime, our sacrificial lamb is our health. And so what I want to do through this Nutrition is Life series for the next 6 weeks is I want to take you through a little journey and teach you the fundamentals. Now, it obviously gets a lot more deep than this, but the very basic fundamentals that will help guide you through the rest of your life. And truth be known, this is all you're ever going to need. Nutrition is very simple. We are the ones that tend to make it complicated by throwing out 1,000,001 diets. We try to come up with fancy little ways of eating when in reality, the basic nuts and bolts are very, very simple. If you think of our forefathers, regardless of what time in history you look, were given foods from the earth. They didn't have a grocery store that was nicely packed in aisles, but yet they never really experienced health problems. They may have gotten eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. They may have gotten other ailments, but as far as the nutrition, if you look at the works of pioneers such as Weston A. Price, they found that disease really was the exception rather than the rule. Now, unfortunately, in America today, that's just the inverse. We find ourselves riddled with disease. And if you break down the word disease, it's dis-ease. Your body is not in a state of ease. So what I want to show you through this next 6-week series is how you can fine-tune your body and really start to understand how important nutrition is. And the only way that you're going to understand that is through experiencing it. That's the only way you're really going to get a firm grasp on this process. So let's dig in today. Let's get started. Week number 1 is about building a healthy metabolism. Okay? And as I take you through this, I want you to gain a different perspective. We have been so caught up in this country and in the world in general with calories. We think that calories are equivalent to evil. We look at them, we think of weight gain. We've been sold a big lie. We've been sold the lie that calories in and of themselves are unhealthy. You know, we know instinctively that we need some calories. But in reality, when it comes down to it, we have demonized them, and in so doing, we have taken away from our health. If you look at a lot of diets up to this point in history, they have been predicated on the premise that calories need to come down. They've been predicated on one single factor, and that is weight loss. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you in this presentation why that is a disastrous mindset and why we need to get over that. So let's look at why calories are so important. Now, first and foremost, calories are important because they build metabolism. Metabolism is your fundamental way of life. Now, let me say that one more time. It is your fundamental way of living because metabolism is simply nothing more than breaking down energy from one component and converting it into another. So let's think about this. The way you feel, the way you think, the way you concentrate, the way you express emotion, the way you move when you go play basketball or tennis or take a hike with your family or throwing your frisbee with your little guy or gal. It takes energy to convert into other forms of energy. So it takes energy to sustain life. And we get energy through calories. We build, get this, we build a metabolism through the ingestion of a proper caloric balance. In other words, getting adequate calories. Now let's look at some key points here that support what we must do to build a healthy metabolism. First and foremost, our calories must come from whole foods. Now, what is this? Well, whole foods are just that. They're foods that are in their whole form. Let's take an example that everybody is familiar with. It seems to be a main staple in our American diet. Wheat. Okay? Wheat in its whole form has 4 components. There's 4 main components to a whole grain kernel of wheat. Now, when we refine that, when we take it into a food laboratory and we break it down and we strip it down and refine it and process it, what we do is we take 1 or more of those 4 components and we do away with them. Okay? Now, this is a problem because nature has packaged foods in their whole form for a very specific reason. They yield nutrients, trace minerals, antioxidants, phytonutrients, and other secondary nutrients that are absolutely essential for your health. So nutrition really comes from whole foods. If you get a supplement, if you see something that's been enriched or fortified, really what that's saying is that the nutrition has been stripped out initially, and so it has to be added back in secondarily, which that's not a good thing. Now we could go even further. When you see the word enriched and fortified, a lot of studies show that those synthetic vitamins that are added back in, quote unquote, are actually not bioidentical to a natural vitamin or mineral. Now, the claims are contrary to that, but when the studies come down to it, the body does not absorb them as readily. So calories must come from whole foods. Now, that said, I believe, and we promote here at Lifelong Fitness, the rule of 80-20 living. This is a rule that simply states that if you eat and consume whole foods 80% of the time, you will have adequate reserves, adequate health reserves to have an occasional treat, okay? You can have the ice cream with the family. You can go out and have the occasional pizza. You can have the occasional donut. You can have your occasional coffee with sugar, occasional. But it must be 80-20 living. Now, here's the big difference. Now, I want you to listen very closely to what I'm about to tell you. I have been coaching people in nutrition for about 16 years now, and I can tell you conclusively that the average American believes they're living the 80-20 rule, but in reality, it's the inverse. They're living 20-80, literally. They believe full-heartedly, they're convicted that they're eating better than the average guy would, but when it comes down to reality, they are living 20-80. Now, this is why we highly encourage food tracking, because it's easy to self-delude ourselves. Now, I don't say that to be condescending. It is just a fact of life that we tend to see the good side of things when it comes to eating, when it comes to things that we know instinctively and intuitively that we may need improvement on. We tend to delude ourselves and say, well, I'm doing better than Bill or Bob or Stacy over there, right? So 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you're eating good, 20% of the time you can relax, you can let your hair down, but make sure you're real with yourself and it will serve you well. The next point is this. Food provides nutrients. Now, that may sound like a no-brainer. Oops, jumped the gun there. That may sound like a no-brainer, but in reality, this is the most essential concept that I can teach you. We've gotten into a myth. We labor under a myth in this country that food is merely a fuel. Here's what I mean by this. We've been told that calories are calories are calories. And if we want to lose weight, the only thing we simply have to do is take in less calories than we burn, and we're going to lose weight, which there is some truth to that. But what that has subjugated us to is the mindset that food is equal. And that could be not further from the truth. It could be no further from the truth. Food is not equal. Again, whole foods are in a completely different universe than processed foods. Okay, processed foods, we've taken it away. We've kind of illegitimized them, and we've taken away all the vital nutrients that nature first provided for us. Okay, so this concept is essential for you to understand that food provides nutrients. It's not just fuel. It's not just about calories. You have to start to look at this when you're about to take something in. Ask the question, what will this food provide me? Next, I'm going to bring my mouse into the picture here. Okay, if you look at this little graphic down here, okay, food from whole sources provides enzymes. Now you're going to see that an enzyme acts as a lock and key mechanism. Remember, our goal is to build metabolism. Now here's a statement that I never want you to forget. All metabolic actions, from blinking your eyes to beating your heart to chasing your little toddler around the home to making a tennis serve, everything in human life requires an enzymatic reaction. Okay? In other words, it's an oxidative process. You're converting one state of energy to another, and that requires enzymes and coenzymes. Now, those are by and large enzymes are by and large taken from proteins and fats. These are substrates from proteins, amino acid sequences that come together. That's not extremely important to understand. The bottom line is that enzymes, get this, here's what you need to understand. Enzymes come from whole, nutritious foods. When you process a food, it kills the enzymes. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a later week. But for now, just understand that enzymes are necessary for every metabolic action. For health, for functionality, for vitality, you absolutely need enzymes in your body. They do not come from processed sources. They do not come from the white processed bread that you're eating. They do not come from white processed pasta, candies, packaged foods. The enzymes at that point are dead. Now, here's an interesting thing. Think of enzymes as a bank account. You need enzymes for every metabolic action in your body. Now, if you don't have them, where are you going to get them? Well, you have to get them from somewhere, so you start to draw from your own tissues. It's like a bank account. And if you make too many withdrawals, you go to write a check one day and you bounce your check. Well, same principle applies here. All of a sudden, your knee starts aching. You think to yourself, well, I haven't done anything strenuous. I don't know why I'm feeling like this. And really, it comes down to you have not replenished the enzymes and the nutrients at large in your body. You've written a blank check, and now your body's talking to you and saying, hey, you're taking resources that do not exist. And the resources start to come from your joints, from your organs, from all of your muscles and musculoskeletal structures, which leads to problems. Okay, so enzymes are of the utmost importance. They are, as I just mentioned, essential for metabolism. Here's a good key point that I want you to understand. Metabolism equals vitality. When you have adequate calories, you have adequate energy. When you have adequate energy, you have adequate metabolism. When you have adequate metabolism, you have vitality. You have functionality. You can live your life. How many times have you gone on a diet, you restrict your calories, and you're like, oh, I feel like crap. right? You don't have energy, you're irritable, you snap at your spouse or your significant other, your kids are on your nerves, and the reason for that is because your metabolism's in the tank. You gotta have energy. You gotta have metabolism. Metabolism equals vitality. We have got to get away from this notion that low calories are going to save the day, because they will do nothing of the sort. They will take away your vitality. Yes, you may lose fat weight, but that does not equal health. And you can have the best of both worlds. We don't need to subjugate ourselves to ill health and disease in the name of low calories. Okay. Now, here at Lifelong Fitness, we say that diet is a 4-letter word. And it is. Dieting is one of the most disastrous things that we've ever introduced into our health. You imagine a caveman or a hunter-gatherer or an American Indian or an Aborigine saying, hey, I'm going to go on a diet. But let me ask you a question. Did you ever see obesity within any of those populations? Did you ever see diabetes? Did you ever see blood pressure issues? And all of the plethora of diseases that we see today that stem from our poor lifestyle choices. Now, I know that's a little politically incorrect to say, but I think you need to hear it. I think we need to have an abrupt understanding that it is not about diet. It is about taking care of the machine that is known as our body, this brilliant machine. And that is what our charge is to take care of ourselves. See, again, we sacrifice our health. That is our sacrificial lamb. We worship at that altar of convenience. I hope through this series you're going to understand that that cannot and should not be the case. Now, here's the question. How many calories do you need? I'm not going to spend as much time on this slide. Your trainer is going to take you through a lot of this. But first you need to consider your physical activity. What are you doing? Now, this is kind of a no-brainer. If you wake up one day and you're going to have, on your itinerary, you have hike 5 miles up into the mountains. After that, I'm going to play basketball for 2 hours. And after that, I'm going to top it off with playing with my kids outdoors on the trampoline. Now, if you had a day that looked like that, then obviously and if your life really looked like that on a daily basis, where you're a biker, you're a triathlete, you're active, you're all over the place, well, then your then your calories are going to have to accommodate that, okay? So first we have to understand what a BMR is. A BMR stands for basal metabolic rate. And a basal metabolic rate is essentially the amount of calories that you would burn if you got up and did nothing. This is your optimal cost of living: to blink your eyes, pump your heart, circulate your lymphatics, perform every metabolic action that you know. Basal metabolic rate. Now, for most people, they get a basal metabolic rate, and depending on the person, it's anywhere from 1,100 calories up to 1,800 calories, or somewhere in between. Here's the problem. Most people get that rate, or they don't know about that rate, but they have a BMR, they have a basal metabolic rate, and they go on a diet, and they go below the basal metabolic rate. Now, when this happens, the body is forced to undergo a process called downregulation. Now, this process is simply stating that if you do not give your body adequate fuel, it is forced to bring down its metabolic activity to the level of calories that you have fed it. In other words, if you give it a suboptimal level of calories, it downregulates to a suboptimal level of functioning and performance in your own life. Your vitality goes down, your functionality goes down. So you have to first consider your physical activity. How active are you? You first have to understand what your BMR is. Now, your trainer is going to take this. You can do this. There's simple sites like MyFitnessPal, exrx.net, which is on the resources page, which will come up on a further slide, that will show you how to do this. But simply put, this is your cost of living, and this will show you where you need to be, at least from a basal standpoint. Now, think of it this way. If you got up and sat up and did nothing all day, that's the amount of calories that you would burn. That's the amount of calories that you would need for optimal functioning. You should never go below this number. Now, in addition, we need to account for additional activity. This is anything above and beyond. When we get up in the morning, we stretch, we get up, we go to work. Now, depending on your activity level, you're going to tack on a fair amount of calories. Let's go back to the triathlete. The triathlete might tack on 3,000. So if they had a BMR of 1,500, they tack on another 3,000. They're up to 4,500 calories, which gives them their total energy expenditure, which AKA is TEE. Okay? This is what you are going to experience. Now, your trainer is going to find your TEE, and they're going to put you in a calorie range. If you're trying to lose weight, what they're going to do is they're going to subtract a number from this total energy expenditure, and they're going to put you in a calorie range, not a calorie number. They're not going to say 1,500 calories. They're going to say, okay, here's your range. You're going to be from 1,500 calories up to 1,800 calories. Why? Because the metabolism is homeostatic in nature, and if you keep feeding your metabolism the same amount of calories day in and day out, it starts to get lazy on you. Okay? So based on your total energy expenditure, which is your BMR plus your additional activity, your trainer is going to take away, or if you're trying to gain weight, they are going to add calories to that number so that you can gain weight. I hope this concept makes sense. If not, ask your trainer. I'd be more than happy to further elaborate on it. Now, here's the bottom line. You cannot burn fat effectively without calories. Now, the only reason I put this line here is because 9 out of 10 people call Lifelong Fitness and they say, I said, what's your main goal? What's your objective? Well, I want to lose weight. That's great. I admire that. I applaud you for that. Here's what you need to know. You cannot burn fat effectively or in the long term without adequate calories. It is physiologically impossible. Okay, so we need to get over this notion of low calories. Now, let's look at the consequences of going, quote, low cal. If we look at this graph, and I apologize, it's a little bit bad, there's 3 different scenarios, and this is in your binder. Up here in scenario 1, we have what's called an optimal range. And if you look over here, see where my mouse is pointing, we have high calorie range, optimal calorie range, and down here we've got low calorie range. If we stay within our power zone right here, which is our optimal caloric range that we just talked about, which promotes optimal metabolism, here's the metamorphosis. We go, if we want to lose weight, that's exactly what we do. Why? Because we build our metabolism. It leads us towards a high level of functionality. It builds our metabolism. Now, we know, because we've grown up in a culture that has told us for years about scenario number 2. This is a high calorie range. If we're taking in excessive calories every day above and beyond our calorie range, well, of course, we're going to gain weight. Now, if it's with healthy foods, it's going to take a heck of a lot longer to do that. If it does happen, then it is with processed junk food. Now, here's what I want to show you, and what I feel is the most imperative, which is scenario number 3. Scenario number 3 shows us when we stay in a low-calorie range, our metabolism starts to stagnate. I've seen this my entire career. People work their fanny off. They're in the gym, they're doing crunches, they're on the treadmill sprinting. And I ask them about their nutrition, I look at their diet logs, and lo and behold, they're in this low-calorie range. They're falling for the Shape Magazine syndrome, as I call it, saying low calorie this, low fat this, which is all nonsense, by the way. And they're falling for this whole cultural myth that we've discussed, and this is what they get. Their metabolism is essentially saying, hey, if you're not going to give me calories, I got to hold on to what I have. I'm not going to oxidize fat. That's a valuable resource for me. I need that. I don't know when I'm going to get fed. You're only feeding me 1,100 calories and I need 2,000. What do you think I'm going to do, pal? I mean, I don't know what your body's really saying, but it's probably pretty similar to that. Okay? We need to understand the ramifications. Now, let's look at macronutrient ratios. Okay, and I don't want to make too big of a deal about this. Macronutrient ratios are referring to carbs, proteins, and fats. Essentially, these make up your diet. You'll see a picture here. I've got meat, we've got carbohydrate, we got fat. So any combination of food is going to be incumbent upon these three macronutrient ratios. Now, the body prefers balance. It works in a state of synergy. It prefers to have these consumed at the same time. I'm known for saying there is a difference between snacking and having a meal. A meal is something that is complete. It's got carbohydrate, protein, and fat in a good balanced ratio. That's where we want to be. And again, the body prefers balance. Now, these macronutrients, the macronutrients that I'm about to show you are indeed very generalized. Metabolic typing will help you further refine your needs. Now, I've got a little book here called The Metabolic Typing Diet. $5 used on Amazon paperback. I'd highly encourage you to read it. This is excellent research that shows how and why we are all unique from a metabolic perspective. An Eskimo eats up to 90% saturated fat, meat, and contrary to these silly studies that we hear, they don't have cancer, they don't have type 2 diabetes. Why? Because they're getting meat that is conducive to their metabolic type, meaning that their metabolism is geared towards that. They are evolutionary, their evolution has dictated that this is what they should have. Now, you go to the opposite end of the spectrum, you get somebody that lives on the equator, they are eating figs, nuts, and berries, and their metabolism is geared towards such. Most of us here are mixed or one or the other. Now, it's imperative that we find out. That is something I would further suggest that you find out. Here at Lifelong Fitness, we do more of the basics. We help you understand nutrition in general. Some of our trainers, if they're holistically certified, will take you through metabolic typing as well and help you with this. Now, let's keep going here. These are general macronutrient ratios. I apologize. Now, you're going to see here muscle building ratio, weight loss maintenance ratio, fat loss ratio, and plateau. These down here tend to be more of the extreme ratios. These are what's called, as you can see, a plateau breaker. Most people are not situated or capable of achieving these kind of ratios, at least initially. Now, up here with a muscle building ratio, don't let that freak you out. If you, I don't want to build muscle. A lot of women have a problem with that. Think of this as a metabolism building ratio, okay? 50, 30, 20. Again, these are general. This may or may not work for you, and you may need to switch over to a weight loss or a maintenance ratio of 40% carbohydrate, 40% protein, and 20% fat. Your trainer is going to help select and customize this according to your unique needs. So please understand that these are highly variable. Ultimately, I would highly suggest you get into metabolic typing. Buy the book. It will teach you everything you possibly need to do. It'll be the best $5 you've ever spent in your entire life. Okay. Let me say one thing before I move on. A lot of people approach me and say, well, Griff, I don't know about tracking and calories. Do I need to count calories my whole life? And the answer is an emphatic no. Okay. Here's what I would say. If you don't know where your calories are, at least initially, how are you ever going to know how to build a healthy metabolism? In this process of your journey, it is absolutely essential to know where you're at, tracking and otherwise, so that your trainer can help you build a menu that's appropriate to your needs, so that you know if you are within your calorie range. Most people that are saying, well, I just hate tracking, they don't know where they're at within their range. And chronically, they're either over or under, and it leaves them frustrated. So I am not saying this is something that you're going to have to do for the rest of your life. What I am telling you is that there is a learning curve to it, and after a while, once you get more intuitive, once you get more habitual about this, there will be no need for tracking. You might need to do it occasionally for checkups, but the goal being you will instinctively eat. Your body will tell you when you're done. There's no need to get fancy about it, and you will be on autopilot. Okay. Now, here's my next point. A lot of people come into our doors, and it's all about losing weight. Right? So why are we here? Why are we getting into exercise? Why are we trying to eat better? Here is my golden rule of health. It is not about weight. It's about your optimal health. I have written numerous blogs named To Hell with the Scale 1 and 2. They're on the Lifelong Fitness blog. I would highly encourage you to read them in the archives. It goes through a physiological perspective as to why it is not wise to equate a number on a scale to your health. It's flat out wrong. This is about your health. We live in a quick fix society. Give me a pill. It's the microwave mentality. I want it now. I want my belt buckles loose now. Well, here's what I'm about to tell you. Sometimes when you start to lift weights and you start to readjust your metabolism, you actually might gain weight because your body starts to absorb calories. And it didn't have that ability when it was malnourished. Did you get that? Okay, so it's not about weight. Eventually the weight will come off. And I'm not trying to impugn anybody's goals of weight loss. That will happen, but it is an ancillary byproduct of a healthy lifestyle. It's about treating your body with respect and understanding that weight is not indicative of health. It never has been. There is fat people that are very healthy, very functional, and the inverse is true. These so-called healthy skinny people that are metabolically bankrupt, and they are so far from a picture-perfect health. So enjoy your journey. This is not about stepping on a scale every 2 seconds. This is about a journey of health. Let's get out of this Shape magazine, quick fix, slim fast mentality that we've all been sold for the last 5 decades. It does not work. This is about health. This is about your life. This is beyond just what a number says on a scale or what a tape measure says. Now, here's what you can expect for your trainer, and I'm going to go through this quickly. You're going to be given a customized calorie range to your needs. You're going to be taught how to customize your calories based on your needs and goals. You're going to be given a macronutrient ratio based on your needs and goals. And you're going to be given a tour of myfitnesspal.com and be committed to tracking your food each and every day. Now, here's what I want to conclude with. I've got the title here, Is Your Mind in the Gutter? This is what I call the consciousness continuum. I'm going to bring my mouse into play here. You're going to see that we're really on a journey, my friends. We're on a journey that begins, and we're trying to ascend to a level of higher thinking. Most of us live in a society where if you ask somebody, hey, how's it going? They say, just another day at the rat race. Another day, another dollar. You know, these are trite, euphemistic statements that we've thrown out for decades. I call this base level thinking. Well, that's actually thoughts of the common man. But below this, down with base level thinking, we have hesitancy and procrastination. We've got doubt and fear, blame and denial and delusion. This, a lot of clients might enter with this level of base level thinking. Now again, Tony Robbins is known for saying, where focus goes, energy flows. If we're coming from a base level of thinking where we're doubting ourselves, we're fearful for our health, we blame our genetics, we deny that we have a problem, we delude ourselves that action has to be taken, you'll notice that that level of thinking leads to a certain level of living. Now this is huge. Now we come up the road a little bit and we get to the thoughts of the common man. Now we've got everyday thinking, hey, another day, another dollar, another day in paradise. You know, we got a linear cause. Prepare this food, and I hear this all the time. These are conditioned responses that essentially imply this is just the way I am, which leads to excuse making, and it gets you frenzied and scatterbrained. Okay? This is the world we live in. This is the way we think. This truly has defined us as a society, and much to our chagrin, we look at our statistics of vitality and we look and we say, uh-oh, 65% of us are overweight or obese. Now, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm blaming us culturally that we sit here with the thoughts of common man and we say, oh, it's just too bad. This is just the way it is. You know, things are so busy. I just really wish I had the time to prepare my food. I wish I had the time to be healthy. I'm so stressed out. Frenzied, scatterbrained thinking. I've got news for you, my friend. It's not the way that it is. It's the way that you make it. It's the paradigm that you're looking through. It's simply nothing more than a conditioned response. And once you start to understand that you're in control of your life, and get this, you take responsibility for it. And I'm sorry if I sound a little preachy there, but that is an absolute immortal truth. Once you take responsibility for your busy schedule, once you take responsibility that you're going to have to change your lifestyle, you start to elevate your thoughts. See, what you do is you come from the thoughts of common man, you come up here on this road, now you get thoughts from what I call your highest self. Now, I don't know what your spiritual beliefs are, but I could probably bank it and say that you probably believe in a higher power, unless you're atheist. And even if you're atheist, you probably still believe in a form of energy that's a higher power, which is great. Now, have you ever been in a time in your life where you just achieved no matter what? Maybe it was a college degree. It didn't matter how much money was asked. Maybe you were pursuing your spouse. Maybe you were going back to school and getting a postgraduate degree or starting a business or something of this sort. And you were in a mode of thinking where nothing could stop you. This is what many spiritual teachers call your highest self. Okay, now, obviously this isn't a spiritual lesson, but it makes a powerful point into your journey of lifestyle change. If you operate from your higher self, the part of you that is enthusiastic, that has hope and confidence, rather than, oh, I don't know, oh, this is going to be a hard journey, right? There is an inner knowing right here. Once you have this inner knowing, once you operate from a place of enthusiasm, hope, and confidence, you start to create and you start to express and you start to manifest the life that you want. You start to fulfill and live the fulfillment of your dreams, your hopes, and your aspirations. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, that sounds like pie in the sky, I would invite you to reconsider your thinking. Think of it. You have all the potential in the world to change right now, but you've been conditioned to believe in either base level thinking or thoughts of the common man. I have clients all the time that sit in front of me in my desk and they say, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if this is the time of my life where I'm meant to change. Maybe when things settle down a little bit. That is the most destructive, life-filled thinking that you can possibly entertain. I'm here to tell you, my friends, you have all the potential to change right now. And that is why you are on your journey. You're here for no small reason. You're here to better your life. And we take this charge very seriously. I hope you can sense that from your trainer. This is not just get out into the gym and work out kind of place. We want you to change your lifestyle. And it is our duty to help you do so. So please, if you ever have questions, if you ever have hesitations or concerns or complaints or suggestions, please, please, please don't ever hesitate to knock on my door, to give me a call, to shoot me an email, to talk to me in person. Either way, any way that you're comfortable with, I want to talk to you because you're really on a journey that is going to take you into a better way of living. Now, think of it. Once you start to better your health, that changes the way you feel in all areas of life. You cannot look at health and fitness in a microcosm. It transcends into your spirituality, into your professional life, into your parental duties. If you are a parent, it transcends into your educational experiences. There is not an area of your life that it does not percolate into and affect at a very deep, core, and fundamental level. So here's my challenge. Take these action assignments and go to town. I'm not going to read over these because these are in your binder and you have resources and you can read. My challenge for you is to take yourself seriously. If you say ready, set, go, don't say ready, set, stop. Keep going. I've got a little saying that I want you to never forget. It's this: never excuse away your inner greatness, because you are riddled with it. Okay? And always remember, my friends, life is good.